All right, we're here with John Kohler. He's doing a raw food diet for 19 years. He's got a really good YouTube channel out there. He's got 2 YouTube channels.
3, actually.
3? What's the third one?
Raw Foods.
Oh, Raw Foods. He's got OK Raw and growingyourgreens.com. Oh, yeah. So, a lot of people don't know who John Kohler is, but he's been doing this lifestyle for a very long time. And I figured I'd do an interview of him. So, I want to know, how did you get started with this?
All right, Mike. So I got started into raw foods specifically for one reason, is for my health. When I was younger, almost lost my life. So I was actually hospitalized with spinal meningitis. And I only made it through the spinal meningitis, I can only say through higher powers, because the doctors could not help me at that time. When I was in the hospital, I had a lot of time to think, and I thought long and hard, like, John, what's really important to you, man? Is it important to have like a ton of money to like have a nice sports car and all this kind of stuff and buy stuff? And at the time, I mean, money really didn't mean anything, because I learned that without my health, like if I lost my life, even if I had a nice car, I couldn't enjoy it. If I had a nice house, couldn't enjoy it. So I really learned at a young age, thankfully, that your health is your greatest wealth. And I learned to value my health, because at the point I was in the hospital, the doctors told me I might not make it out alive. All I wanted in the whole world was not $1 million. I just wanted my health to get the hell out of there, to not lose my life, because it's not fun. So I'm happy and glad that that happened to me at a young age, because normally this does not happen to people until they're really older. So I really strive to take my health as seriously as I can and do things to increase and preserve my health. And, you know, raw food is one of the primary ways that I do this.
And you said raw foods helped you overcome this illness?
Well, not this particular illness, but what happened was I had the spinal meningitis. I got through that, but then when I was leaving the hospital, the doctor said I had what's called complement immune deficiency. So that's basically a defective immune system that they blamed on my genes, which caused me to get the spinal meningitis, or I could contract any other kind of illness because my immune system's not as strong as the normal person. So I was kind of dealt a bad hand. Later, I found out that that bad hand was only influenced by the foods I was eating. So if I eat a proper fruit and vegetable-based, plant-based diet, my immune system's strong. But if I go back to eating conventional diet, you know, my immune system's worse than the average person.
And who was a big inspiration for you? Like, who's the big name back there for raw foods? So,
well, when I got into raw foods, it was back in 1995, so this is before a lot of the stuff got popular. I mean, I knew a lot of the people that are still teaching today. They were teaching back then as well. But the person that really got me inspired and into raw foods at that time was Jay Cordich, the juice man. And he had an infomercial. He talked about juicing and, you know, drinking fresh juice. So that's a great way to introduce, you know, more fruits and vegetables into you without really making any radical change. You don't got to be a fruitarian or do all this stuff. You just need to juice and eat more fruits and vegetables. And, you know, along with the juicer that I bought from the Juice Man, it came with 6 cassette tapes. So this goes back a ways. The first cassette tape, you know, you press play and I listened to it. The first thing he said on there, one of the first things is, the one thing that prematurely ages you faster than anything else is cooked foods. Don't put cooked foods in your body. Now, when I heard that, man, I was like, who's this freaking wacko job, this nut job? I mean, everybody eats cooked foods. Nobody eats raw foods. I'm not listening to this rhetoric. And I turned it off, flipped the tape over, and pressed play and listened to him telling about his, you know, recipe for nice skin, including, you know, like parsley and cilantro and cucumber and apple and all this stuff.
I remember the info commercials back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so he introduced me into raw foods and he talked about it, and I really kind of, he opened my ears and opened my mind. I read his book and, you know, I was moving in that direction, although it didn't go raw overnight at that time. I learned more about it and was juicing for 6 months, learned about colon cleansing and, you know, this stuff and a colon cleanse. And then I went raw.
He had a pretty good story too. He cured bladder cancer.
Yeah, overcame cancer.
Just
absolutely.
Drinking carrot juice.
Right, yeah.
Turn orange.
Yeah, I just saw him actually. I saw him a week ago actually.
He's still alive.
He's like 90
something years old.
90 years old, yeah. He's doing great, yeah.
He's still juicing.
Still juicing.
So what's an average day for food for you, like, nowadays?
Yeah, so an average day depends on what I'm doing, but an average, like if I'm home, you know, and have all my produce and everything, not like I'm traveling like I am now. An average day is super simple. This is not a hard diet to do in any case. And my lunch and my breakfast are always one of the following. That being said, before I even have lunch or breakfast, in the morning I generally awaken out of bed. First thing I do is get hydrated. That's very important to me to stay hydrated. I live in a place where it's an arid climate, so it's really dry, so just sleeping, you're losing moisture. Some of you guys may live in a place where that does not happen. I happen to live in a place where it does happen, so it's very important to stay hydrated. Upon awakening, I drink about 32 ounces of liquid. So generally it's coconut water if I have it. If I don't, then I'm drinking filtered water. And then I'll go to work, and then I'll work until I get hungry. So I don't just wake up and instantly, oh, I gotta eat breakfast, because when you're eating breakfast, you're breaking your fast. And I want to extend my fast as long as possible and not eat until when hunger calls and when I'm hungry. So I work a bunch, then a couple hours later, depends on the day, depends how busy I am, then I'll get hungry. And then I'll do one of three things for breakfast and or for lunch. So those three things are, number one, if I have a lot of fresh fruits that I need to eat that are ripe, I'll just eat a whole mono meal of fruits. I could eat 3 or 4 mangoes, or I could eat, actually the other day I had jackfruit for breakfast, just a whole bunch of jackfruit till I was just totally full and happy. So that's option one. Option two is I could have something like a green smoothie. So I could go out to my garden, backyard, pick a whole bunch of leafy greens, mix it in with some coconut water, and then like some bananas, and then blend that up into a green smoothie. Or I could have a fruit smoothie. So, whole fruit green smoothie. Other option I like to do is green juice. So then I'll go out to my backyard, pick about a pound of greens. Just the other day I picked a pound of collard greens out of my backyard. That's only 12 leaves. And then juiced up a whole head of celery, some cucumber, some apples, and a lemon, and boom, there's my green juice. About 48 ounces or so, depending, or sometimes up to 64 ounces, and then that's my meal. And so if I did one of those for breakfast, then I'll do one of the other options for lunch. It's rare that I do like fruit. I might do a green smoothie, and then fruit, or I might do fruit, and then like green juice. And I always switch it up. I think it's very important to get enough greens in a plant-based diet. Most people neglect the greens. It's easy to eat fruit because they're good, but most people simply do not eat enough greens. And then those are my first 2 meals. And then my last meal of the day is generally one of 2 things in general. It's either usually a large salad or a nice, delicious raw soup, from juiced ingredients, whether I have a base of carrot juice or tomato juice or pepper juice, or zucchini juice or cucumber juice, maybe with a handful of nuts blended up, and that's the soup base. Then I'll cut up a ton of vegetables in there, maybe some seaweed sometimes, and then that'll be my main meal, the soup. Or I'll have a huge salad with like a big head of lettuce or like a pound of greens with like a fruit and nut based dressing. So one of my favorite ones and easy ones to make is orange juice and macadamia nuts blended up. I could do like a tomato, pepper, nut base, or I could do like orange juice with avocado. A little bit of fat and a lot of vegetables is basically what I'm eating, and that's kind of what I eat in a day, Mike.
Oh, cool. It seems pretty easy. So just fruit, vegetable juice, and then big salad,
yeah,
soup. That's
pretty simple.
It doesn't have to be a lot complicated. Now, before I get going on this question, we calculated your BMI. It's about like 20.
Right, 20.1.
And you're supposed to get under 25, so he's in perfect range, healthy range. Not too light, not too heavy. Now, how many calories do you get? On average.
So, Mike, I don't really, calculate my calories because I don't want to live my life by a calorie calculator, try to like figure it out. And I have been doing this a period of time. And what I could say is this, the average man should eat about 2,000 calories. I figured out on certain days, what I eat, and I eat around 2,000 calories. Now, do I always eat 2,000 exactly? No, it depends on my activity level, what I'm doing. If I'm like exercising more, if I'm out gardening more, if I'm sweating more, if my brain's, being used more, I'm going to burn more calories because your brain burns calories too. And I just let my body regulate. Like if I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And that's just kind of what regulates how many calories I eat. So in general, I eat around 2,000 plus or minus, depending on some days I'll eat more greens and less fruit. Some days I'll eat more fruit and I'll bring it up a little bit. Some days I'll have an extra handful of nuts. Whatever. So, but around 2,000.
So no calorie restriction or anything. All right. Here's a big question for you. How 80-10-10 are you?
80-10-10. You know.
Oh, let me explain what 80-10-10 is before we get started with this. 80% are it's 80% or more come from carbohydrates and 10% or less come from fats and protein. This was developed by Doug Graham, and he kind of put it into a raw food paradigm with it. So, and another thing with the 80-10-10 and the way Doug Graham writes in his book is like no spices, no garlic, onions, and things like that. Do you do strictly 80-10-10? Because your diet seems pretty much 80-10-10.
Yeah, so that's a good point there. You know, I don't like to say that I do any one kind of diet except the John Kohler diet, and I would encourage everybody out there to come up with your own specific diet. I mean, I know Doug wrote 80-10-10. It works great for him, but I'm not Doug, so I'm not going to do his exact diet. What I like to do is I like to pull from different teachers, from different diets on different components of the diets that I like, and I'll bring them into my own personal diet. So while I do use many different principles and techniques in 80-10-10 or natural hygiene, I don't subscribe to everything to the letter, you know, because I think, you know, there's some benefits of some foods that are not included in that program, and that's just my personal opinion based on my research and what works for me. I always encourage you guys out there to find out what works best for you. I mean, some of the other programs that I take things from are something like the Hippocrates style diet that advocates a lots of greens, man, like a green-based diet. I also look at, you know, Dr. Joel Fuhrman's work or the nutritarian diet style and pull things out of there, and I want to eat nutrient-dense foods. You know, of course, the majority of my calories comes from fruits, and, you know, but I pull some elements out of some of the other programs to make my own specific diet. So that's about how 80-10-10 I am. On an average day, I have calculated this before, I eat between 15 to 20% fat on average. Some days it could be down to 10, some days it's no overts. And, you know, but I normally don't go above 20. Normally I'm right around 15, plus or minus. It's kind of like where I like to feel and be the best. If I eat too much fat, it really slows my ass down. I have tons of energy and I don't want to be slowed down. So I just don't like eating that much fat in general. But I do think, you know, for me, some amounts of fat are actually really good, because what happens is when you eat fat with high antioxidant foods, whether that's fruits or vegetables or tomatoes or greens, you know, you're going to get a higher uptake of some of the nutrition because it's going to slow down your digestion. Also, you're going to feel more satiated for longer as well. And, you know, there's also other nutrients in whole food sources of fat that may be beneficial for us.
Another thing I want to talk about is, you know, you go to a lot of expos, you see a lot of different things. So what is one fruit or product out there that you just really kind of blown away with, or you think it's going to be the up and new thing out there?
So, Mike, I go to a lot of different health expos. I go to the two largest health food expos in the country at this time every year to learn about the new products so that I can keep up to date with the new products. I mean, there's always new products coming out, and the majority of them I don't particularly care for. Some of the products that I've learned in the past at the trade shows are things like Ashitaba, which is Angelica Kiisuke, which is basically a special variety of Angelica grown in Honshu Island in Japan. It actually has high levels of nutrition, including something called chalcones, which is this like kind of yellow sap that oozes out that may be good to help with cancer and all these other things. So it's like a miracle green. So instead of just taking these little tablets that you could buy from a company in Japan, I got out and got the seeds, got the plants, and I'm growing those so now I can harvest leaves and eat them. So I always want to encourage you guys, you know, if you see the latest and greatest superfood, first, see if you could actually grow it yourself in your own home, you know, or buy the whole fruit or vegetable instead of just taking some powdered pill or supplement. Another one I learned about actually a couple years ago was Egyptian spinach or malahia. Actually, it's a leafy green that grows excellent in the summertime, especially in the nice heat. And it's a nice edible green that's actually more nutritious than kale that, once again, they're trying to sell in little pills, but I just went out and got the seeds, got the plants, and I'm growing them. And actually, I've learned that I love Egyptian spinach even more than kale, and it's even more nutritious than kale because it has a nice mild flavor, more like a lettuce. The problem I have is I just can't grow enough of it to eat it as fast as I want to because it tends to grow a bit slower. But the latest one that I've learned about just actually a week ago when I was at the first health trade show this year was the cactus fruit. They're now trying to sell cactus fruit powders and all these extracts, but once again, I always like to say fresh is bestest. And there's a lot of research coming out on the cactus fruit on how beneficial it is. It has tons of antioxidants in there, including things like lycopene, and actually is a plant-based source of taurine, which is an essential amino acid for cats, but not for us. We can manufacture that. It's not an essential amino acid, but lots of cool nutrition. I kind of look at cactus fruit as a berry. Everybody knows berries are rich in nutrition, and so are cactus fruits. It's kind of like a berry, and if you get the green ones and they're ripe, they tend to be sweeter than the red ones. And then I like to mix the cactus fruit juice made with my juicer with the coconut water and the coconut milk to get, once again, an increase in the uptakes of some of the antioxidants in there.
Another thing I want to talk about is, you go to a lot of expos, you see a lot of different things. So what is one fruit or product out there that you just really kind of blown away with, or you think it's going to be the up and new thing out there?
So Mike, I go to a lot of different health expos. I go to the two largest health food expos in the country at this time every year to learn about the new products so that I can keep up to date with the new products. I mean, there's always new products coming out, and the majority of them I don't particularly care for. Some of the products that I've learned in the past at the trade shows are things like Ashitaba, which is Angelica Kiisuke, which is basically a special variety of Angelica grown in Hashijo Island in Japan. It actually has high levels of nutrition, including something called chalcones, which is this like kind of yellow sap that oozes out that may be good to help with cancer and all these other things. So it's like a miracle green. So instead of just taking these little tablets that you could buy from a company in Japan, I got out and got the seeds, got the plants, and I'm growing those so now I can harvest leaves and eat them. So I always want to encourage you guys, if you see the latest and greatest superfood, first see if you could actually grow it yourself in your own home, or buy the whole fruit or vegetable instead of just taking some powdered pill or supplement. Another one I learned about actually a couple years ago was Egyptian spinach or malahia. Actually, it's a leafy green that grows excellent in the summertime, especially in the nice heat. And it's a nice edible green that's actually more nutritious than kale that, once again, they're trying to sell in little pills, but I just went out and got the seeds, got the plants, and I'm growing them. And actually, I've learned that I love Egyptian spinach even more than kale, and it's even more nutritious than kale because it has a nice mild flavor, more like a lettuce. The problem I have is I just can't grow enough of it to eat it as fast as I want to because it tends to grow a bit slower. But the latest one that I've learned about just actually a week ago when I was at the first health trade show this year was the cactus fruit. They're now trying to sell cactus fruit powders and all these extracts, but once again, I always like to say fresh is bestest. And there's a lot of research coming out on the cactus fruit on how beneficial it is. It has tons of antioxidants in there, including things like lycopene, and actually is a plant-based source of taurine, which is an essential amino acid for cats, but not for us. We can manufacture that. It's not an essential amino acid, but lots of cool nutrition. I kind of look at cactus fruit as a berry. Everybody knows berries are rich in nutrition, and so are cactus fruits. It's kind of like a berry, and if you get the green ones and they're ripe, they tend to be sweeter than the red ones. And then I like to mix the cactus fruit juice made with my juicer with the coconut water and the coconut milk to get, once again, an increase in the uptakes of some of the antioxidants in there.
So I want to know, what kind of workout do you do? Do you do any kind of special workout or anything?
All right, Mike, so
you're in a good, healthy range.
I'm in decent shape. I'm at 20.1 on the BMI, so that's like, the lower end of, where I should be. And, I hate gyms, Mike. I mean, no offense. I know you work out in gyms like, I don't know, almost all the time, probably too much in my opinion. And they stink and they're full of meatheads, except if you're there, then you're a fruit head. But, I just don't like gyms. It's quite unnatural. I mean, like just a couple hundred years ago, there was no such things as gyms before the Industrial Revolution. People got out, work in the field, they'd build houses, they'd have to actually do physical and manual labor. And we would all get exercise, not in a gym, but just doing our everyday activities. So that's what I strive to do in my life. I strive to get as much physical activity and workout in my regular life, whether it's lifting 44 pounds of jackfruit and walking with it half a football field because my car is parked way far away at the produce terminal, whether it's picking up 30-pound boxes of juicers and taking them to the FedEx place and shipping them. You know, whether that means going out to my backyard and gardening and, you know, trimming plants, bending over, planting plants, lifting bags of compost, spinning my compost tumblers that are like 100 pounds. You know, I'm just getting all kinds of physical exercise in my daily activities. In addition, of course, I also like to do things like, you know, hike, do rollerblading, rock climbing, to get some nice physical activity, you know, in my life to stay in shape and stay fit. It's very important to me. You know, besides just eating properly, we need to get a proper amount of exercise and, even more importantly, a proper amount of sleep.
Yeah, sleep is very important. How many hours do you think you sleep?
So on the sleep, Mike, it depends. I mean, I know some raw foodies say, oh, I barely need any sleep. I get 2 hours or 3 hours. And I can't tell you this. On a raw foods diet and eating how I do, I definitely need less sleep than I did before I got onto raw foods. So that's totally accurate, totally true. Do I need 2 or 3? I mean, I can get by with 2 or 3. Just, you know, I'm traveling right now and I got by with 2 or 3 my first day. I don't particularly care for it so much, but on average, I like to get between 6 to 7 hours. And one of the things that I want to encourage everybody to do is not using an alarm clock, you know, for waking up, and, you know, go to bed when you're tired. So my rule is I go to bed when I'm tired and I wake up whenever my body wakes me up, unless I have a flight that morning. You know, because then we're truly getting enough rest. Most people are waking up with an alarm. They're wanting to hit the snooze. And if your body's still wanting to rest, that means you haven't gotten enough sleep and you're depriving yourself of sleep, which can impact negatively your health and your performance.
What is one thing that you have in your garden that you're like really blown away by? Like you're like, oh wow, I can't believe I have this in my garden. This is one of the top things I have in my garden.
So probably my favorite plant in the garden would have to be the perennial tree collard. So whether it's the purple variety or the green variety, those are just some cool, awesome plants. I mean, all you guys probably might have a lawn or maybe some trees planted, and you know that tree outside, it just grows year round, you know, it keeps making leaves, they might fall off, you have to rake them up every year. But the tree collards are literally like a regular tree you would have outside, but they grow into a tall tree that makes collard greens that you could pick and eat 365 days a year if you live in a mild climate like I do. Now, if it freezes outside, you might have to bring it in the winter so it doesn't get too cold, or build a hoop house over it so it doesn't freeze out too bad. But literally, these guys get up to 12 feet tall. They make leaves day after day, year after year. I could literally just grow a handful of plants and have enough greens to juice and make green smoothies and even eat salads with.
Wow. Thanks, John, for doing this interview with me. It really means a lot. I think a lot of people need to know more about you. So where can they find out more about you?
All right, Mike. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate it a lot. And if you want to learn more about me, you can check me out on some of my YouTube channels, OKRaw or OKRaw.com, Growing Your Greens or GrowingYourGreens.com. And you can also check out my channel where I teach about the different appliances that will allow you to eat more fruits and vegetables. Juicing and blending by far the easiest ways to get more fruits and vegetables in you. And that's my full message to you today. Whether you're going to be all raw or mostly all raw, I think eating more fresh fruits and vegetables is the way to do it. To learn more about the demonstrations on the different equipment, you can check me out at youtube.com/rawfoods or my website, discountjuicers.com.
What do you usually say after each video? You usually say this.
So, I mean, on every channel I have a different closing shot, but, you know, on my OK Raw channel, which is my raw foods channel, I want to say, eat your fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.